Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. Living in a suburban neighborhood, I never thought that a simple misunderstanding would escalate into a full-blown legal battle. I had always kept to myself, barely interacting with my neighbors, but things took a turn when my neighbor falsely accused me of stealing his lawnmower. It all started when I noticed that my neighbor's lawnmower was missing from his shed. I didn't think much of it and assumed that he had taken it somewhere for repairs. However, a few days later I received a note on my doorstep accusing me of stealing the lawnmower. I was stunned and immediately confronted my neighbor to clear things up. He was extremely agitated and yelled at me, saying that he knew I had stolen his property. I explained that I had nothing to do with it and that I had no idea where his lawnmower was. However, he refused to believe me and threatened to sue me for theft if I didn't return it. Despite my best efforts to clear my name, things only escalated from there. One day, I woke up to find that my neighbor had put up no trespassing signs on my property. I was shocked and angry. He had no right to put signs on my property without my permission. I decided to confront him again, but he refused to answer the door. A few days later, I received a letter from his lawyer stating that I had trespassed on his property and that he was going to sue me for damages. I was devastated. I had never trespassed on his property and he had put up the signs on my land. I knew I had to fight back and hired a lawyer to help me. The legal battle was long and grueling. My neighbor's lawyer tried to paint me as a thief, but I had evidence that showed that the signs were on my property. I presented this evidence to the court and the judge ruled in my favor. My neighbor was ordered to take down the signs and pay for my legal fees. I thought the nightmare was finally over, but I was wrong. A few days later, my car was vandalized and someone had spray-painted "thief" all over it. I immediately suspected my neighbor, but I had no way to prove it. I installed security cameras all around my property to catch whoever was responsible. It didn't take long before I caught my neighbor on camera trying to damage my car again. I called the police and had him arrested. In court, my neighbor tried to deny everything, but the security footage proved his guilt. He was found guilty of vandalism and ordered to pay for the damages to my car. He also had to pay a hefty fine and was put on probation. As for me, the whole experience left me feeling violated and anxious. I never thought that my neighbor could turn into such a malicious and vindictive person. However, the court ruling brought me some closure, and I was glad to have the issue finally resolved. The next one is a pro-revenge story. A bit of backstory: I live in a predominantly Mormon area, and I am not Mormon. I received quite a bit of criticism from my across-the-street neighbor because of the religious difference. I'm assuming. We've never interacted before he started messing with me. He currently has 10 children. About a month ago, on trash day, he told one of his kids to kick my trash can over into the street. The kid did it, and I witnessed everything. This is not the first time he has kicked my trash over, and I figured it was a lost cause to go over there and ask them for some decency more than I already have. That same day, I was reminded by a friend about how I used to have a pen pal when I was younger before I moved. Later that night, I was browsing the web looking for a pen pal when I stumbled across a cool-sounding site. prisonpenpals.com. I visited the site, and after clicking through a few dodgy links, was brought to an array of different prisoners who were looking for a pen pal. After doing a bit of browsing from there, I stumbled across a fellow who is on death row for 1 saint-degree murder. Feeling bad for this guy, but not wanting to give my address out, you send an email, the guards print it out, and give it to the prisoner, who then write you a letter and deliver it to your physical address. I remembered the a-hole across the street. More out of curiosity than malice, I proceeded to write a very detailed letter about how I am a trapped, secretly gay Mormon man with 10 kids who is looking to start an extramarital affair with a prisoner. I put in his address and send. I had my hilarious, petty satisfaction. I expected nothing to come out of this. I thought he would be going through his mail, see the letter, not open it, toss it, and think nothing of it after that. But boy, was I wrong. Of course, with it being a small town, this guy does run a small business here where one of my acquaintances works. I went in just earlier today and chatted with my acquaintance before he told me. "Oh my God, did you hear about neighbor?" I said no because I hadn't, and he filled me in on all of the details. Apparently, one of the neighbor's kids had brought in the mail, only for his wife to find it and read the letter from this prisoner responding to the joke letter that I wrote. I don't know the specifics of the letter, but I do know that his wife threw a fit when he arrived home and made him pack his bags. My acquaintance informed me that this was not the first time neighbor had started or tried to start an affair with another man, and apparently this was the last straw for her. I am still shocked, horrified, and extremely amused by this predicament. The next one is a petty revenge story. My buddy Steve has worked at a small business for over 10 years. Most of his time there has been pretty alright, but recently it has become a remarkably worse place to work. Steve is the most senior employee outside of management, and by far the most productive. He's always training new hires, working extra hours, helping other departments, you name it. Pretty often, Steve will come in for a couple of hours on his day off to take care of backed-up paperwork and general housekeeping of his department. This does wonders for keeping the department running smoothly, especially when they are busy. Management knows about this and approves. Going into the holidays this year, they are absolutely slammed, as usual. Orders are backing up and it's all hands on deck, extra hours, full tilt. After another 60-hour work week, Steve has a couple of days off. On his second day off, he decides to go into work for a few hours. He knows his co-workers are likely too busy to be taking care of the side stuff, so he's being a team player and helping out. While he's finishing up and about to leave, Steve's manager comes up to him and they have the following conversation. "Hey Steve, quit messing around, get back out there and do your job," the manager says. Steve replies, "Hey manager, sorry it's my day off. I'm not scheduled to work this shift. I'm just helping out, leaving in like 5 minutes." The manager replies, "The hell you are, get your ass out there." Steve says, "Nope, not happening, I'm going home." The next day, Steve is predictably brought into the office, dressed down and written up for insubordination. But there are a few things about Steve that you should know, which his employers knew but either forgot or didn't care about. Steve has been getting fed up with his employer for a while now. Steve is quite financially stable as he works in a high-demand industry, and his wife also has a fantastic, well-paying job. Steve is about to become a dad. In fact, he is very, very close to becoming a dad, right after the holidays, most likely. So Steve is in the manager's office, just finished getting talked down to, and handed his write-up to sign. Steve signs his write-up and hands it back, along with an envelope with a short letter inside. "What's this?" the manager asks. "My 2 weeks' notice." Cue the backpedaling. The manager is apologetic, asks for Steve to at least finish the holiday rush. Big Boss comes in and offers a raise if he stays, the whole shebang. Steve turns it all down. Now Steve's former employer has to get through the holidays without their most reliable worker, which will take at least 2 or 3 new hires to cover. Meanwhile, Steve can enjoy the holidays without stress, help prepare for the arrival of their baby, and start looking for work again when they're good and ready. The next one is an entitled people story. I opened a liquor store in my hometown this year, which my girlfriend and I are running together. Last night I posted to this subreddit about something else that happened. In that post I referenced this story and saw a couple of people asking about how I was able to legally charge this lady 15% extra, and my girlfriend said I should tell the story. 4th of July weekend and we were prepped for the busy weekend. Although around 8 o'clock things had started to slow down. In the store we have a TV which I use to run ads for different events, benefits, few things for my store, and a couple other businesses in town. When we have no customers in the store, my girlfriend, my employees are allowed to do the same, and I connect the TV to our phones and we'll stream Hulu or YouTube videos. So we're standing there watching Family Guy when the door opens. I walk up to the register while my girlfriend is turning the TV back to the ads we have running. This lady, who easily looks like she's in her late 40s, maybe early 50s, walks in looking absolutely furious. Before I can say hi, she yells, "Does your manager know what you're doing?" My girlfriend and I share a glance. Because of our age, many people assume we just work there and aren't the owner and GM. I look back and nod my head. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that manager and owner have intimate knowledge of what we're doing. My girlfriend chuckles behind me. She huffs. "I don't care who you're sleeping with. I need this beer. Do you have it?" My girlfriend jumps up. "Yeah, I just stocked it. The lady snaps her attention directly to her. "What are you doing here?" My girlfriend is very confused by that comment. "I'm working." The lady says, "No, that's not what I meant, and you know that. My father fought in Korea, so why is someone like you here? This is an American company with American jobs. You shouldn't be here." My girlfriend and I are absolutely slack-jawed at this woman for her blatant racism. Before we can say anything, she continues, "Your kind murdered Americans. So maybe you should work for the Chinese or go back to China, you chink idiot." Before this woman or my girlfriend can say anything, I yell, "Get the duck out of my store!" The woman snaps at me, rounding the counter. She screeches back at me, "Who do you think you are? I'm the owner!" I grab her arm and she starts idioting and slapping my hand, but I just start dragging her to the door. "Now get out!" I open the door to my vestibule and push her into it. She turns back. She's standing in the vestibule and yells, "I'm calling the police for impersonation and assault." I didn't even dignify it with a response and just walked back in. I hadn't noticed, but my girlfriend had gone back into the office and I started consoling her. I've dealt with rude people all my life, but that woman crossed a line. Around 10 minutes later, and I see a car pull into the parking lot on the monitor connected to the cameras. I look at it and see one of the trucks that's used by the sheriff's department. I wait a couple minutes and I get up and walk out front and see this woman standing next to my door. She's giving a statement to the deputy, who I instantly recognize. I went to high school with this guy, and we played football and baseball together. I walk out the door and am greeted by, "That's him, he's impersonating the owner and assaulted me." The deputy looks over at me, very obviously confused. "Him?" The lady rolls her eyes. "Yes, him," the deputy says. "Miss, he's the owner." She about goes ballistic on him. "No, he's not. Look at him. He's too young." The deputy is very obviously annoyed, but manages to explain to her that I am actually the owner. She then says, "But he assaulted me." I explain the situation to him, and he turns to her and says, "Miss, he is the owner and he asked you to leave. Then he removed you from his business." The woman is standing there fuming when she finally yells, "Fine, I'll just get my husband's beer." I stand in front of the door and say, "No, you're not. Excuse me? You called my girlfriend a chink idiot. I'm not letting you back into my store." She huffs and yells, "Fine, I am going somewhere else to get his beer." She leaves, and before the deputy got to his car, I stopped him and convinced him to stay for a while. I knew that the lady was going to be coming back because nobody in my town carries that beer. 20 minutes later, the lady comes back, this time much humbler. "I'm sorry, but no one else in this town sells my husband beer. We're having a BBQ tomorrow, and it would mean the world to him if I could get that beer." I sigh and say, "Well, I suppose it'll be all right." She is overcome by this look of gratitude. "But I will be charging you a 15% markup, and you will give my girlfriend an apology tomorrow." She stops. "Why?" I remind her what she said to my girlfriend. "Well, that markup illegal." This is why I asked the deputy to hang around. "Actually, miss, as long as he lets you know about the markup, he perfectly in line with state and county law." She bought her husband 2 6-packs of the beer, and is then escorted outside by the deputy. The next day she came in and handed my girlfriend a handwritten note to her. My girlfriend then calmly explained that she and her family are not Chinese, they're Hmong. Which, if you know anything about Hmong history, you'll understand the irony of the lady's "your kind murdered Americans." The next one is an entitled parent's story, so this just happened last night and I still can't believe someone would do this. I'm a 30-year-old male paramedic. I've been in EMS for the past 8 years and I absolutely love my job. Last night we were dispatched to a 75-year-old female who fell at home. The patient stated that she tripped over her carpet and hit her head when she fell. We arrived on the scene and noticed that the home was a duplex with our patient's door on the right and her neighbor's door on the left. We made our way into the home and found her lying on the floor. The woman was awake and breathing. We started asking her the standard questions. "Are you okay? Does anything hurt? Do you remember the fall?" etc. She stated that she has a pounding headache and that she remembers walking to bed and then waking up on the floor. In my field, that's a pretty big red flag. We noticed that she's got a pretty good lump on the side of her head and a big bruise starting to form already. Noticing the bruise, I asked her if she was on any blood thinners. She said that she was on blood thinners for a previous stroke she had a few years ago. We urged her to let us take her to the hospital because there was a possibility that the fall could have caused a bleed in her brain, and she should go to the hospital to get some scans done. She agrees, and we begin to package her up. We applied a C-collar around her neck in case of any C-spine neck injuries. She denied any neck or back pain, so we lifted her up and placed her on our stair chair. A stair chair is exactly what it sounds like. It's a chair with tracks that we use to carry patients up and down stairs. As we were getting her out of the house, her neighbor whipped the door open and started yelling about how she couldn't sleep with all the lights and noises outside. The sound of the stair chair apparently woke her up, and she was not happy about that. My lieutenant walked over to her and apologized and said that we were dealing with a medical emergency and that we would be leaving soon enough. The neighbor then noticed that our patient was her neighbor, and that's when she started yelling about something totally different. The entitled neighbor started yelling, "You can't take her to the hospital. I have errands to run tomorrow and she needs to watch my kids." My lieutenant again reiterated that we were here for a medical emergency and that her health is more important than her errands. The entitled neighbor let out a loud huff and then slammed the door in his face. We thought that was the end of it. We were wrong. After a few minutes in the back of the ambulance, we told our lieutenant that he could take the engine crew back to the station and that we were going to be heading out in a few minutes. After we checked her vitals, got an IV going, and started giving her IV fluids, my partner got out of the back and went up to the driver's seat. About 5 seconds later, the back doors of my ambulance fly open, and who do I see? The entitled neighbor, of course. Apparently, she needed a few minutes to get dressed before coming outside. I yell at her, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" She yells back, "I told you that she can't go to the hospital because she has to watch my kids tomorrow." She then starts trying to pull the cot out of the ambulance with our patient on it. Luckily, she didn't know how to latch the cot and couldn't get her out. Our patient says, "I can't watch your kids tomorrow because I fell and I might be having a stroke." The entitled neighbor yells back at her and says, "You're fine. You don't need to go to the hospital because you're not having a stroke." My partner then hears the commotion and goes to the back of the ambulance. He pulls her off the cot, and I slam and lock the doors. You could tell that the entitled neighbor was about to become combative. It's important to know that either the police department or the sheriff's department responds to our calls when it's at night. Because of where we were, it took a few minutes for the sheriff's department to show up on the scene, but he got there just in time. I couldn't hear much through the door, but I saw the officer get out of his cruiser with his taser drawn. My partner runs back up to the driver's seat and starts heading to the hospital. The last thing I saw through the back windows was the entitled neighbor stomping towards the officer and then her hitting the ground after being tased. Super satisfying to watch. I was talking with my patient and asked what that was all about, and she said that the entitled neighbor would just drop her 3 young kids off at her house and leave for several hours at a time with no notice. My patient had no idea that she was supposed to watch the kids at all, because again, the entitled neighbor never even gives her a heads up about these things. Like I said in the beginning, this happened last night, so I don't have any updates, but I'll post an update when I learn more. Small update. My contact at the hospital said that the patient does not have a bleed. She does, however, have a really nasty-looking bruise on her face from the blood thinners. It's incredibly common. She will most likely be going home soon. There is no update on the neighbor. I probably will not hear anything back until my next shift day. Update. I got in touch with the officer on that call, and he said that the woman was not formally charged with anything. The patient is back home now and resting comfortably. Like I said before, the hospital found no signs of a bleed, and she was discharged the next day. She was advised to file for an order of protection from the neighbor, but I don't believe I will ever be privy to that information unless something happens again. I read a majority of the comments, and most people are saying to contact Elder Abuse and DCFS. The only problem with filing those reports is having concrete proof. We never actually saw any children, so we can't really say that they are abused or neglected at all. We can say that we have a suspicion, but for all we know, they could be living their best lives at home with the entitled parent. If the entitled parent had left and abandoned her kids, then that's another story. Calling DCFS without any signs of child abuse and just working off hearsay can just cause more problems if the accusations are unfounded. The same can pretty much be applied to elder abuse. We have no actual proof of elder abuse occurring. The entitled neighbor was not involved in the actual fall, and there was no suspicion for any kind of financial, physical, emotional, or social abuse. The way our patient talked about the kids getting dumped on her was in more of an inconsiderate way and not in an abusive way. The next one is an entitled parent's story. This happened yesterday after I got off work, and I'm rather peeved about it. I just went into my local supermarket to buy some quick groceries before going home and making dinner. I didn't have that much stuff, so I went for the self-checkout since it's generally faster. I was tired and just going through the motions. But after scanning a couple of my items, someone suddenly swung their store card over my scanner. It was some guy I've never met before, and he was scanning his groceries like it was nothing. I asked him what the hell he thought he was doing when he scanned his card at my till. He just tried to ignore me, but I got louder, so he finally just said that he needed the rewards points for the gas station, and I countered by saying, "You think I don't? I own 2 vehicles." The guy tried to go back to ignoring me, so I called for an employee to void my transaction so I could start over using my card. That's when the jerk finally stopped what he was doing to yell at me. He pointed out how I was wearing a suit and probably had a well-paying job, so I didn't need to worry about money for gas, and he needed the points more than me. I told him that it didn't matter what he thought. He doesn't know me, we're not friends, and I use my rewards points for fuel. nor is he entitled to them from my purchases. Finally, an employee showed up to stop the fighting, and the jerk tried to say to her that I was taking his rewards points. I pointed out I couldn't be taking his points when they're at my damn till, and he scanned his card at my till before I could scan mine. The jerk kept trying to talk over me as I said all that too. The timid girl working at the self-checkout basically took off and called for a manager's help. I stood and waited, and the jerk kept glaring at me the entire time. Well, the manager showed up, and the jerk tried repeating the same nonsense, but the manager made him shut up while he was talking to me, and when I explained what happened, the manager voided my scans and let me start over. And I made sure to scan my card right away this time. Then the manager gave the jerk an earful and told the guy that he better not do that ever again, or he'd be banning him from the store for 6 months. The jerk went a bit white, then red as he took his groceries and stomped out the door. And I mean the kind of stomping you see an angry kid do. The manager apologized to me and said this sort of thing happens more often than you think. I really hope I don't encounter that jerk again. I was half expecting to see him waiting for me in the parking lot or something, but thankfully he was long gone. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.